and just do another warm welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you taking your time off. And if you are somebody that is watching this recording at a future date and you could not join us because of load shedding, I feel you. I so feel you, and I'm glad that you're watching the recording. But for those of you that are streaming in and you might have load shedding halfway through the session, just as a reminder, it is being recorded. So, good morning. Very warm welcome to this morning's PR and Communications TechSoup Connect in Southern Africa event. I am beyond excited for this for multiple reasons. The first one being that we have Claire as our guest speaker. Some of you have seen her on our social media before. Some of you might have attended workshops that myself and Claire have hosted across the country. And some of you might be following our online series that we have. Those of you that know Claire knows that she spends a lot of time in her community. She dedicates quite a bit of her time and her expertise to nonprofits. And she's partnered with us for 9 years now. She's a very prominent businesswoman. She's just celebrated 12 years of overall events and communication success. And I could think of nobody better than to spend this next hour with us and to help us as nonprofits, no matter which size we are or at which journey we are on, but to help us learn more about PR and communications, how to do it, when to do it, why to do it. This is an introductory session though, and so I'm hoping you're going to take a lot of notes as Claire is talking, but I do encourage you to please comment in the chat box down below. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what are your most pressing PR and communications questions, and Claire is going to talk us through quite a bit until the very end where we do a Q&A session. Claire, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited for this. Absolutely love the work that you do. And not only are you a very prominent partner of ours, but I also get to call you my friend. So with that, good morning and welcome.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Sam, for that beautiful introduction. Yeah, we've gone back a long way. And thank you to everybody that has taken the time to join us this morning as well. Thank you to TechSoup Connect, Pombano Tech, but I'll get to all the thank yous later on. And yeah, just welcome. I'm very happy to be here and to share with you a little bit of what I know, because it is introduction, but yeah, I try to put in as much as I can into my presentation, just to give you just a little bit of help that when you leave here, you'll be a little bit more empowered as to know how to tackle your public relations strategy, or even just to start with one. Because I know with nonprofit organizations, it always seems like such a daunting task, and I'm here to, just like Sam, make it easy for you to understand and also not let it seem so daunting. Thank you so much. I think there's some more people that's waiting to be admitted, so we'll give them a minute. But yeah, we've had some good rain over here, and because I'm from Gqeberha, Port Elizabeth, so we're very happy for the rain today.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, so Claire, the waiting room has been opened, and so ready to share when you are.
Okay, I'll start my presentation.
And Inga, good morning. Thank you for letting us know how excited you are, just like us in the chat box. Just a quick reminder before Claire starts to everybody, please make sure you are muted, your cameras are off, and use the chat box while Claire is presenting, and let us know your questions. Claire, with that, I'm going to mute, and you can get started.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for commenting. I'm really, really excited. Sam knows me very well, that I'm a behind-the-scenes type of person. That's essentially, I think, most public relations practitioners that I know. We are happy to work behind the scenes. We're happy to share our stories of our clients and our nonprofits that we work with. And she's always pushing the boundaries, and we're happy to just share our knowledge with everybody. So that's why I'm here. And I'm doing an introduction to public relations and communications, because that's what I've been doing for the past almost 20 years. Not revealing my age too much, but I did start many moons ago. So let's get cracking. You must have heard the term what public relations is, and essentially the definition stays the same. People tweak it here and there, but it is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their various publics, both internal and external. I've put in the internal and external for my definition because I find it's very important to also establish good relationships with your internal team. I'm going to break down a little bit of what the definition is, because strategic communication just means that there is a plan and there's a goal in mind. Also, why it would be called mutually beneficial is because with your donors or your beneficiaries, there is something in it for them. There is a reason why you started as a nonprofit organization. There's a cause to why you started what you have. And even your donors and your beneficiaries, they support you because of it's beneficial for them to share and to support you in some way. So it's beneficial both ways. So that's why it is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships. And that's why you get supported continuously, because it's just beneficial for whether it's from a CSI project or they have a budget for it. So it's something that is built on relationships. And the reason why nonprofits should need it, I'm not sure if you realize the importance of public relations for nonprofits. I suspect that you might be doing it anyway without knowing that it is called public relations. And I'm also not sure of the full knowledge of everybody that's in the room, but we'll pretend like it's your first exposure to public relations, because it's good to define what you're doing and why you're doing it. So nonprofit organizations use public relations to help educate the public, to build trust, increase donations, support, and to find volunteers. Public relations can also increase the awareness of a nonprofit and engages donors through online and face-to-face events. So you can recognize you're already doing these things, but you might not have known that it's public relations. So essentially, public relations is helping you to share your mission and your vision. You're telling people about why you're doing what you're doing, because there's always a reason why a nonprofit is started. It's a bit different compared to corporates and big organizations, because their bottom line is always about the money. And it's not that nonprofits are not about the money, but that's not essentially why they get started. They get started because they want to raise awareness for cancer, or they want to talk about disabilities, or blood diseases or blood cancers. So that is your point of departure, and that is what you want to be telling and sharing about. So you're already doing that, but you're not aware that it's public relations, perhaps, or maybe not somebody dedicated to sharing your story. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So with a public relations campaign, it's always good. We'll go back to the strategic part of it, and that's what I'm going through now. The strategic part is actually having a set goal in mind. And I don't know if you would have come across the SMART goals way of doing it, where the SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. We'll touch on that a little bit more, but with any public relations campaign, even if it's 2 months or 3 months, there should be a goal in mind, and there should be a little bit of a plan as to why you're doing it, whether it is to raise money, to increase your social media presence. There's always a goal. There has to be a goal. If you haven't been creating these public relations campaigns, or even the communications campaigns, it would be good to start with it now, because it just guides you, and it also ensures that it possibly can happen, and that you have a start date and an end date. There used to be a saying that said, advertising is what you pay for, and publicity is what you pray for. I know previously the media used to be so inaccessible. You wouldn't know who the editor was or who the journalist was covering it, and people would just send out a press release and hope for the best. With nonprofits, they wouldn't always have a media relations practitioner or even a PR person assigned to it. So they would just not get press, or just pray for it. So nonprofit press releases are short, it's factual, and it's written in the third person and given to the media to encourage editors and journalists to feature the nonprofit story in their publications. I'm not sure if there's anybody doing it for you at your nonprofit organizations, but media releases is not, it's sticking to the facts. It's giving them the information and then them deciding if it's something newsworthy for them. What in my case, what I've done is, in my experience as well, is if you have a relationship with the media or with the journalist or with the editor, you don't actually even start off with a media release. What I've started doing is just dropping them a mail to say, hi there, how are you doing? This is what's coming up. I thought you might be interested in the story or maybe covering it. And that would be like one paragraph to the editor or the journalist that I know covers these type of stories. So it's not always this big document that you have to compile. It's really information that you're sharing, but we'll get more to that a bit later. So public relations practitioners, professionals, we call them practitioners, professionals, officers. We used to be called officers. It used to sound like we are traffic officers, but yeah, public relations practitioners are the bridge builders. It's really creating that relationships with the media, with the public, and yourself. So if you have a public relations practitioner in place, or somebody doing the work of a public relations person, they would be in charge of creating the communication strategy. And I would urge you, if you don't have somebody doing that now, you should be having a communication strategy or creating one with somebody that has good writing skills and good editing skills. Because trust me, with public relations and communications, there's lots of reading, lots of writing. And also if you are a writer and you have to communicate the stories, it just helps you that you are naturally enjoy writing and reading, obviously. The PR helps a business or individual cultivate a positive reputation through various unpaid or earned channels and formats, including press, social, and in-person engagements. I made a little asterisk next to in-person engagement because that's the most popular ones. Events is what we do 80% of the time because they are the most effective ways of fundraising, of creating awareness of your cause, of just networking and connecting with people. And even getting to that stage, there would have been a lot of PR being done before that. Whether you are building your network through email marketing or just actually doing cold calling and with direct mails or direct sales, that is part of your image and your trust that you're building with your network, right? You also, PR can also go wrong. No, not PR go wrong. You would need a PR person to help when things go wrong, because sometimes things get out there that you haven't planned on getting out there and they could be seen in a different light. I don't know if you're all aware of the Nando's support with Gareth Cliff and Mr. Sienkam, and I don't like to get political as well, but Nando's was put in a position where things got horribly wrong because they were supporting people that was just a bit of a risk, and they handled it pretty well in my opinion, because they didn't pretend like it didn't happen. So that is where PR comes in. I can guarantee you with the Nando's situation that happened last week, it is because of the public relations team and a communications team that supported them and made the decision to terminate the contract. So that is a perfect example of something going horribly wrong, and you would need a public relations professional or a team that will assist you. Obviously, we know that everybody's got the budgets to have public relations practitioners with them all the time. But even if you make use of freelancers or have somebody built in, it's just you need to have even a public relations plan for crisis communication. So what happens? What do you do if something like that happens to your organization? You have to have a plan in place. Even if it's a rough plan, there still needs to be some sort of guide as to what's going to happen, who's going to be responsible for sending the feedback or even compiling the media release. So it's just so that you don't get caught off guard. So lots of people would ask, but what am I going to put in the media release? Why? I don't even know what to do. So there's many reasons why you would send out a media release to the media. Not everything is newsworthy, obviously, not your day-to-day activities are newsworthy, but these are some examples of what would be classified as newsworthy. So whether you're launching a new program or a new beneficiary scheme, updates to existing programs or services, moving to new offices or being sponsored in new office, new partners, new spokesperson, rebranding your logo, reaching your fundraising milestones, or just a big fundraising event like, the Cancer Association, or any type of event, or receiving an award for all the work that you've been doing. There's many reasons why the media would want to know about what you're doing, or why you can share that information with them. And I want to reiterate that the media is not this big body, that's the scary body that will bring you into trouble, because they had a bad rap. But what I want to say to you is the media also need your stories. The media, and I'm talking about online media, traditional media, print media, digital digital, and your website. They need your good stories, because essentially they sell papers, they sell content, they also share good content. So we need the good stories, because there's so much bad happening in the world, and non-profit organizations do good work. We want to know these stories. We want to feel good about what is happening out there, so that we don't get wrapped up in all the nonsense and the bad that happens out here. So share your good stories with the media. You know what is the worst that can happen? What is the worst that can happen? Send it to them anyway, and so they can either use it or not. But we'll get to how you can get to that. But the media need your stories. That's the bottom line. So we talked about a little bit about the positive and the negative, but essentially the PR professional, we want to share your good news. We want to share why you're doing what you're doing, whether it's accomplishments, products, position, anything, whether it's the gardener maintaining the landscaping so beautiful. There's always something that you're sharing, and that obviously is not going to go into the paper every day. But you've got social media platforms, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got Twitter, you've got your website, and hopefully a blog. Sam will touch more about the blog side, because she's always talking to me about we should be blogging more, and she does it brilliantly. And also the negative, we talked about the negative. So a PR's job is to advise the organization on how to proceed around negative news. If conversations are being had, then an organization should share their side of the story. However, how they respond will have an impact on the public's perception. If done poorly, it could make this a situation worse. We've talked about that with the Nando situation. And if something bad happens on your page, or there's some negative feedback, don't ignore it. Take time to respond, and make sure that the person that's responsible to respond to any negative situations have been trained somehow, and also maintain professionalism, and have the channels of communication open, but be decisive. But please don't ignore negative reviews or even negative feedback about your brand, because how you respond is really crucial in getting future support, and how people see your brand. You might be thinking, what am I supposed to share? I've highlighted some stories that you could include, but there is a story. Every non-profit organization, or even any company, any business, any entrepreneur, because I know there might be entrepreneurs that works for non-profit organizations, or even just freelancers or volunteers. There's a story to tell. There's a reason even why you are working at a non-profit organization. That's worth sharing. And whether it is on your blog, or on a Facebook page, or on Instagram, it's not always something that you send to the paper, but the paper might even pick up on that if you share it in a blog post and share it on your page, because you never know if they're looking for a story about a volunteer. Then yeah, but we'll get to that. So your story is writing and compiling your story goes hand in hand with how your company is represented. It should be truthful and authentic, sharing that connects you with your audiences. You never know who is going to relate to your story, and at the end of the day, it's a truth. We write about why you do what you're doing, and why you continue to do what you do, and also even to how what you're doing benefit your beneficiaries, getting testimonials from them, sharing the testimonials from how their lives have changed from your work in the nonprofit organization. That's all content that is floating around you every single day, that is yours to share. And the beauty of stories is they happen every day. They happen all the time. There's always something happening. And you being consistent with it is once a week or once a month. Just be consistent with, if you start with doing a blog, once a week, once a month, you'll find things to write about. And also with the stories, if you don't know, just start with the W's and the H, the 5 W's and H's. The why, the where, the who, the what, and how. Some of the PRs maybe that's in the room would recognize that. When you do media releases as well, you keep it short and sweet. You give them information. You tell them why they need to know, where it's happening, who's in it, and yeah, what's happening. Okay, how to get their attention. And how to get their attention means the media, because essentially PR is about your various publics, and that's your public, your external audience as well as your internal. So your internal public will also read your blogs. They should be following your social media channels, all of them, because they need to know what's happening. And sometimes, because we're so busy with our everyday fundraising and getting donors on board and helping beneficiaries, we actually forget about the good work that we do. And something can just slip through the cracks, and we should be celebrating every little milestone and writing about it, even if it's one paragraph. Share it on your social media pages. Share it. Because it's news that we want to know about, and supporters of your nonprofit organization would want to know the good work that they help create. So create your strategy and the target audience. Yes, your strategy, once you do plan it, should be able to answer what do you hope your audience will give you, and how will you move them towards doing so. So creating a strategy is all well and good, but you need to know who you will be talking to. Who is your target audience? Who is it that you're trying to reach to? And you can start with even your existing donors and beneficiaries. You can even ask them, what is your most preferred social media channel that you follow? If it's Facebook, great, follow on with Facebook, and then you can focus on that, because there's so many different social media channels. You don't have to be on all of them. Pick one or two that you can do really well and that you can stick to, and where your audience are. You go where your audiences are, where your majority of your audiences are. If some of them or most of them are on WhatsApp, then you do WhatsApp communication, because WhatsApp is a social media channel as well. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but you can also create a business WhatsApp profile for yourself. But go where your target audience are and communicate with them through those channels. And then once you create your online presence, be consistent with it. Because what happens with consistency in posting and sharing information is that you then become a thought leader. People see you as a thought leader. I think Sam is brilliant with that, with Bombano Tech and TechSoup Connect as well. They are always posting brilliant articles, useful information, valuable content that I share all the time, because I thought, wow, this is a great article. So if you're sharing, say for instance, I'm going to use cancer as a non-profit organization, because it's just it's such a good cause as well with all the other causes. So if you're writing articles about benefits of screening to test for breast cancer, what is the type of things you should look out for, and you do this regularly, people are going to come to your pages and come to you for expert advice. So the benefits of the consistency in posting and creating an online presence is that because you're top of mind all the time and they see your name all the time, they're going to assume, even the media would be like, you know what, we need some information on this, let's go to Claire, because they see Claire posting all the time, they see Claire sharing information with him all the time. So it's building that relationship and this an industry leader in your particular industry. So whether you talk about your community events, or your causes, you can also share content of other people and support of other events, even though it's maybe not even relating to you. It's just supporting your community, because we build communities around our causes, and your community is and your relationship is what keeps you going as well. So one of the great benefits of creating media releases is to have built up a media list and a list of media contacts, right? So media release should inform, not sell, and keep your audience and target list of media in mind when compiling it. So I always say to Sam as well that not every media release is meant for every platform. So the audience that you would be talking to, say for instance, it's your beneficiaries, you want to let them share it on their platforms. That media release or that information that you send to them will be slightly different to sending it to the national newspaper perhaps. So you always have to keep in mind who's going to read it and why should they know what you're sending them, right? So with lists of journalists and media houses, you will know if you pick up a paper now or even check a website, who are the people that write about the things that affects your industry or your nonprofit organization? That name, that journalist or that editor should be part of your media list already, right? So you would know that this is the person I would call or this is the person I would email if I would want to share a media release to. So you would need to get familiar with your industry, your nonprofit, whether it's cancer or water conservation or environmental publications, and that would be print media and online, traditional, every type of media, because in the digital age that we're living in now, there's so many platforms that you can get exposed to as well. There's actually even a journalist website where you send them information where it's called, I think, Help a Journalist Out, where they actually actively look for information on different types of subjects where they actually want your content. So there's actual website out there where you can just send press releases out and they might even use your information. So it's not this Fort Knox anymore. People actually want your information that you want to share with them. So is there somebody wanting to ask a question?
No, we're all good, Claire.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, okay, let me get to the next slide. The most popular question: how do I connect with journalists? It's actually not that difficult. It used to be daunting even for me that just started out. When I started out, I had no clue at all, because what they teach you at university and real life is a little bit different how it works here. It's a great guide though. It's a great guide, but you basically learn things as you go along and just taking a risk and just reaching out, just reach out. There's nothing that can go wrong, honestly, unless you just keep it friendly. But as I explained to you, that's the content of my email. Hi there, if you ever need to talk to somebody, I see you covered this particular topic. I work for this company and you might find the CEO really helpful to talk to for a story on insert topic. And that's could be your whole email, obviously, besides a good day, how you're doing. This is how I even reach out to editors. And also, if you are connecting with them for the first time, you wouldn't want to pitch them a story for the first time. You want to build a relationship. But as I mentioned to you, journalists and even editors, they need good stories. They need the stories that you are willing to share with them, and testimonials, all of those. But find out who are the journalists that you need to connect to. I know you work sometimes with lots of volunteers. Let them find out where do you want to be featured in, which trade publication or which website or which annual yearbook comes out. Find out who is doing it, who's compiling it, who is the people you need to speak to, and then drop them a mail and say, hi there, this is what we're doing, this is who we're helping. We thought maybe you would be interested in this. And if ever you want to talk about this subject, we'd be happy to share some content with you. That's how simple it can be. It doesn't need to be this overly thought of plan, but it should be part of your plan. Even this email that you would be sending out should be part of your PR plan. It should be part of your communications plan for, I can say, the next 6 months. And that's the other thing you also need to know, that PR is not, it won't be overnight success. You could be sending out 5 media releases or 5 emails to the media and not get a response, or they say, thank you. That's their favorite thing. They don't always respond. They never actually even tell you they're going to print it, because you know why? There's always something that could be more important than your story that's going to be shared. Breaking news happens all the time. You guys know it's elections at the moment, even here in South Africa. So there's always going to be something that's going to get preference if it's hard news. And yes, we all want to be on the front page, but front page is meant for hard news. Unless it's a really great story and they have the space, they would do that. We had a cancer event last week, and my email to the editor was literally, "Hi there, we're doing this. I thought maybe you would cover that." Basically, like my first slide I showed you before this. And they said, "Great, thank you for sharing. Thank you for letting us know this is happening." And they sent out the photographer, and it did happen to get onto the front page of the news, not because of the event or what we're doing, but we made a little heart shape on the stadium, in the stadium field. So that was significant. That was special. It was a breast cancer awareness event, actually a cancer awareness event. And it got to be on the front page just because it was something different and something good to share. And that's not always guaranteed. It's a shot in the dark. I always tell my clients, even I told my client that I was working with at the time, I said, there's no guarantee of getting earned media, because the title says it all already. It's earned. It's whether they have space, it's whether it's a priority for them, whether it fits into what they are focusing on for that day or for that week. Because just like everybody else, they've got targets, they've got bosses to report to. So it really depends on what's happening at the time. How do I connect with journalists? Stage 2. Timing is everything. I've touched a little bit on that now. So even though it might be really important news, it depends on what's happening in the world at the moment, because people could be dying in Syria, and they need to report on that. So then they forget about your great story, because that is also very important news. Even though it's horrible news, it's still news that they would need to take priority over and might not have space for your good news that you share. So don't get despondent if you've been sending out potential for news to be put into the paper or on a website or anywhere. Just keep on doing what you're doing, because you know what, you never know when it's going to be your time to shine. So sometimes it actually, the read the room and read some more, it more relates for me to the social media posting, because sometimes you schedule posts, and then something happens and what you've posted is not sensitive to what is currently happening outside in the world. So just when you, with your scheduled post, just make sure that whatever content you're putting out there is relevant, and that it's not upsetting or I can say irritating people at the moment. And if you're targeting a certain publication or a paper or publication or any website, just read the stories that they write about, to know that if it's something that you want to be featured on, because sometimes you just want to be featured on different websites and different platforms, but is it a good fit for your organization? Do you agree with everything that they're saying? Because sometimes it could just be one thing that they post and you think, oh, I relate to that. But make sure that whoever you associate with, even with media, that it's something that aligns with your brand. And I know obviously with just general newspapers, they talk about everything, but just make sure that you want to be featured in the publication that you are targeting as well. Leveraging social media. That's a good one. I love it. I never used to understand Twitter. Honestly, guys, it took me, I think, 5 years. And I always used to say to Sam, I don't know what this Twitter is all about. But Twitter is a great marketing tool. There is so much happening in the world just on Twitter alone that you will never get to see on Instagram or on Facebook. So it's a great networking tool. Thousands of nonprofit organizations across the world is on there, sharing their news and connecting with each other. So, and also a really great tool to connect with journalists and editors on there. You get to know a little bit more about people, because Twitter is like a micro little blog for people. If they use it for a professional profile, you'll only get to see all the nice things they post on there. And sometimes they share a little bit more about themselves, things that will let you know them a little bit more, like whether they like coffee or donuts. I'm just making an example. But it's a great tool to share their posts, follow them. Once you've compiled your list, and okay, these are the journalists, or just search for people that work at the publication that you are targeting. Follow them, like their posts. Obviously, if you do like the post, don't pretend to like the post. It relates to sharing information that aligns with your brand or to your values as well. So share their post, connect with them, so that when they even, for when you even send them an email, they'll recognize your name. They recognize that, oh, Claire chatted to me the other day on Twitter. It's a good way to do networking without having face-to-face contact, because what COVID has done for us is take away all that face-to-face contact, and people are wary of meeting anybody in person. Lovely, it's getting a bit better now, but social media is a good way to just connect with people. And not in a creepy way, just, like you would do with anybody's post that you like. And once you've identified your journalist or journalists that you would like to connect with, just say hello to them, pitching, don't send them stories. The first email shouldn't be like, hi there, this is what we're doing. Please send somebody out to this event because we're doing this. No, don't do that. You are sending an introduction. Like I say, this PR thing, it's for the long haul. It could be a 6-month process, a 3-month process. I would say rather 6 months rather than 3 months. It's building that relationships. It's building that trust. It's building that channel for communication where they won't dismiss your email of the third email you sent because they know you a little bit, and if they want more information, they would go and look at your Instagram, they would go look at your Facebook. So with you posting regularly, or even having a blog or even a website, if they want more information, it's readily available because you're consistently posting and you have your public relations plan in place for you to have content available for them to look for and to find. And when you do send them a press release, it can just be in an email form as well, where it's bullet points. You give them information. Really, you give them information. You give them what they need to know and why they need to know it. And also, what even is great, if you can give them other relevant sources that they can get quotes from beside your CEO or your MD or your public relations person, right? And it's very important to know which journalist is covering the things that you would want to share with them. You can't send a hard news journalist soft news. So, and how you would know that is if you actually read the publications, read the papers, see, because now they actually give the names of the journalists in the publications. So you would know, oh, they were talking about a fundraising event, so that's somebody that's going to go on my media list. And also, people love going out for coffee or a virtual hangout, which I'm actually doing in 2 weeks' time with my new friend. And it's just really to get to know what you're all about and just taking it to another level, because they want your stories, guys. They do. Yeah, you might be thinking, and actually this is more for us PRs, that we always want to know, how am I going to measure my efforts? Thank goodness for digital marketing, because PR and digital marketing goes hand in hand. There's no two ways about it. PR has become digital. It's not separate, because your marketing plan forms part of your PR plan. It has to, because it's represents your company outside. It represents your brand, and PR has to inform that decision and the goals for the marketing effort. Even they need to work hand in hand. So my first line is, not everything that is meaningful can be measured. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. You can't measure every single thing. You'll just know it. You'll just know what has been meaningful. So your goals for your efforts could be, the number of times you've been mentioned in the media, whether it's in paper, in print, or online, the number of website visits, how many people have taken the survey that you've sent out, how many people have signed up for a newsletter when they went to our website, also how much money we've gotten from in terms of donations. Also, Google Analytics is free, and I know Sam is going to love me mentioning Google Analytics, because it's a free tool and not lots of people use that. And also, you can create unique URLs for promotions and landing pages, so you can track exactly for that particular campaign what's happened. And also, Google also sponsors free ads for nonprofit organizations, if you didn't know that. But Sam will talk to you more about that, and I'm sure all you might know about it because she's so good with marketing. Right, Sam? Okay, and how do you maintain success? Consistency with your communication plan, your ongoing process and activity, and you set up really simple execution plans. You build your media list, you define your goals, you make use of the free platforms, because really they are free. They are free, but we need to make sure that whoever is managing them is good at writing and editing, and is really, really well versed in your mission and your vision of your nonprofit organizations. Consistency is the key to success. That's actually one of my frames that I've got up in my office. It's not behind me, it's in front of me. Because in anything in life, whether it's following a new exercise program or not eating carbs, consistency is the key to success. And that relates to your communications, your social media presence, and just connecting and building relationships with people is going to ensure that you have success with your efforts. I'm just mentioning a little bit of the resources that I used to compile this. I've also sent through a link to Sam that she'll share with you, where we actually break down those SMART goals, and it actually shares with you also how to create your goals and what should a media release look like. We've emailed that through to you, or we will be sending it through to you after the session. And yeah, there's lots of resources out there, guys. There's YouTube clips. There's so much resources. It's not this Fort Knox anymore. Information is out there for you to find and to up your skills. But we need your good stories. Don't be afraid to share them. Nonprofits do brilliant work. You do the work that our governments can't do. So tell them about how you're doing it. Tell them why you're doing it, and share the good stories that is readily available, because we need them. We need them now more than ever. And thank you so much to Bombana Technology Development Center, TechSoup Connect, TechSoup South Africa, and of course, Mrs. Samantha Barnard, and all the nonprofit organizations in the rooms for allowing me to, wow, I don't know, it was already 45 minutes. We could talk the whole day, but thank you so much for having me. It is, yeah, thank you.
Claire, can you all see why Claire is just amazing? I mean, I've sat in so many of your presentations, and I've always, watched you talk to corporates and to businesses. And so that's why I was so excited for today, because I knew that you were going to be able to take this very overwhelming topic and put it into a nonprofit language, which all of us that are on the call, we are all here because we're overwhelmed with it. And we have some amazing questions in the chat. Yeah. I just want everybody to know that even though I have worked with Claire for 9 years, I have written 2 pages of notes in her presentation. I will be writing a blog about it soon, because, yeah, I do the blogs. She helps me get it out to the press. And that was probably the most critical point that I found from today's session is, PR and digital works together. And if you do feel as a nonprofit that the press are not paying attention to you, keep going with your digital marketing. Get your blogs out there, get your newsletters, and keep that consistency, as Claire said. That was an amazing tip that you shared. So, questions coming up in the comment box, which we're just going to go through rapid fire. Maybe we can give everybody a 5-minute closing earlier. Yes, we will be sharing the presentation after this meeting. For those of you that RSVP to this using your email address on our TechSoup Connect chapter, that's the email that will receive the presentation. If you don't receive it by tomorrow morning, you can pop me a mail. I'll put my email in the box shortly, and I will make sure that it gets through to you. So Claire, the very first question that came in earlier on is, how can a nonprofit organization invest in PR? And I'm imagining this question is coming from somebody who has never done PR before. So let's say they have a little budget. Where would you say they need to invest in first for PR?
How can they invest in PR?
Or where should they invest in first? Maybe should they invest in a press release? Should they invest in a logo?
No, I hear you. Well, it's difficult to answer that question if we don't know which the organization is. But for me, I would start with a good writer. Good writer, whether it's volunteer, because you do a lot of writing, and writing actually is the number one skill that PR should have. I'm blessed with one of that, I think, but it's not, even if you're not a good writer, find a volunteer or anybody that is good with writing, that has got some sort of a background in formulating and writing good stories, because it's taking what you are doing and translating it into something that people would want to read about, right? It's almost like a magazine article if you think about it. If you read a magazine article, you read a good story about somebody that's gone through some hardships, and then you're like, wow, you finish that article because somebody took the time to take a story and relate it so that to write it to so anybody can relate to it. So I would say good writing skills, invest in that, and sometimes people don't mind volunteering to write if they have the time, but even freelancers, there's a freelance association as well that where people can actually help you start writing and just sharing your story if there's not already somebody doing that. Also with your brand, with your investing in PR, is just having your logo, doing it professionally, having professional photos taken. It's such a little bit of an investment, but having good photographs to share on of who your directors are or who your supporters are is just something that takes it up a little bit of a notch instead of using just your phone to take photographs.
Brilliant. And of course, as TechSoup, we have got free resources to help you get this journey started. What I will do in the email to everybody is I will send you a link to For Good. It's not our resource, but if you are in Southern Africa, which I hope you all are, you can use For Good to raise, gosh, I've forgotten the name of it, but most of you know For Good, where you can ask for volunteers. We also can share a link with Fiverr. It is available on the TechSoup South Africa catalog at the moment for free to access. And you can also use that to say, hey, this is what our nonprofit does. Would you mind freelancing and volunteering your time to help get us started? And to that next level, when you can then start contracting either a full-time or an in-house PR or communications expert. Added to that, I will also send you the link for the Freelance Association. We've dealt with them quite extensively, can definitely, give credibility to them. So I will add that into the email that we send as the event wrap up a little bit later on. Next question, Claire, is it important for a nonprofit organization to have a newsletter? And if so, why would you say?
I would think it's essential to have it as well, especially if you have somebody that can, like I say, if there's somebody doing the writing anyway, if you don't have a blog or if you already have an existing blog, it's some of the information you would share on that. We do have a quarterly newsletter that we send out, and it's in addition to you not everything is going to go to the news outlet. Not everything is newsworthy for you to send to the paper. So your newsletter is for that little soft information to just let people know this is what we've been up to in the last 3 months, and this is why you should keep supporting us. I would say newsletters is a great tool for them just to keep it top of mind, and not in an overly direct selling way, but once every 3 months, people, I don't mind getting an email every 3 months from a nonprofit organization. I don't. And if I don't like to, there's unsubscribe. With the new POPI Act, you can't really send people information that they didn't sign up for. So that protects everybody, but it doesn't need to be 3 pages long. I do like a one, it's like you can all read it in the screen of your computer. It's not a lot of information. It's bite-sized information, maybe 1 or 2 pictures. But yes, I would say a newsletter every 3 months is a great tool to use to keep people, to keep you top of mind if people don't follow social media, because it relates to the slide I chatted to you about, where's your target audience? Do they like email? Do they like WhatsApp? Do they like Facebook or Twitter? I know that lots of NPOs are on Twitter, but they should be.
Yeah, and added to that, Claire, I always use the analogy of digital, especially now if we're talking about a newsletter. What I'm picking up with our newsletter is word of mouth. So what happens is that somebody will subscribe to our newsletter. They might pick up a piece of information that they want to share with an ED or a board member that's not on our newsletter, and then they forward it. And it's kind of the same as if, we all back in the day could, go to each other's homes for dinner or meet at a restaurant and, be social with each other. And around the table, you say, have you heard about this company that's doing this? Or, did you see how I did my hair today? This is where I got it done. Your PR and your communications is also, heavily focused on that word of mouth, which I'm picking up, and your newsletter. Even though you might get unsubscribes, and even though maybe it feels like people aren't reading it, they are, and they do. And the importance is that you just keep doing it so that you can provide them the opportunity to share it out with other people. So next up in the chat box, Veronica, good luck with your event tomorrow. I see that you've got an event tomorrow. Asking, do you have a list of these amazing media contacts? No, I know Claire did touch onto it after you asked the question, but also, provided some good resources as to how to start your list and possibly where to look. Because
I was going to ask. I just want to answer as well. With sharing media contacts, it's like I chatted to you about, is your media list won't necessarily look like my media lists, because the SA, how do I say that? Psoriasis Association there's different publications that you want to target. There's different journalists that cover that type of stories. And it also depends on where you are based, which area you are at. I'm in the Eastern Cape, you're in the Western Cape, or you're in Gauteng, or you're in the US. So media list is where you want to focus on your community, or your community around you. And you need to build your own media list out. That's basically what I want to share with you. It's specific, and you need to know your target audience, and that would dictate the media.
Absolutely. And it goes back to Inga's comment, which is relationships with journalists in your area is key. And it's the same with your donors. It's the same with your beneficiaries. And that's what I was hoping to get out of the session for everybody is, I wrote it down here, everybody, as my proof. The media is not big and ugly.
It's not. I must say, they used to be. I mean, they used to be this impression, and also PR got a bad rap. They're like, they were spin doctors, and there is spin doctors. I'm not one of them. I started off with nonprofit organizations, PR, and I'm still doing that. I do have corporate clients, but I don't do any spinning besides with the top. There is people that get paid to lie. I don't know them, and I don't want to know them. So it's just doing it a professional way. The communications, PR is just doing communications in a professional manner. And if you've trained to do that or know to do that, it's just really doing it and being dedicated to it. You need to have a dedicated communications person. Absolutely. And that's a great tip, Chelsea, as well. Yes, communications personnel also used to be very closed up. Now they are also looking for that content. People want your content, guys. They need to know the good stories, and sometimes they have to. Sometimes they're in a hurry, like, we need a good story, and then they're like, no, but I know Sam, So just stay in the top of mind. That's where you want to be at.
Yes, and just added onto that as well. Also, when you start this journey, it's very slow, but it does get to the point where when you start connecting with journalists, they will start to WhatsApp you. So often I'll say to Claire, this journalist has just messaged me at 4:00 in the afternoon. They need me to be on the radio at 4:15. I can't. This is the topic. And so even if you can't be on the interview, or if you're very busy, such a good tip that Claire shared with me is, let's turn it into a blog, or let's send an email with some tips so that it's fresh on mind, and let's keep that relationship going. And that's how you get the journalists to always recognize you. And then ultimately, it's all about that relationship. They help you and you help them. Claire, so Brian's question is, what is the difference between PR and digital marketing? And this is such a good question. Brian, thank you for asking this.
Well, digital marketing is, in the age that we are in now, is all the social media platforms, like the Facebook and the Instagram, the Twitter. So people used to say, no, that marketing is separate from PR, which it is. There is a different angle that you use. There's a different way of communicating, but it's still part of your public relations function, because how you represent your brand through these different social media platforms would fall part of your PR plan. So what graphics you're using, how are you representing your brand on these platforms is part of the PR plan. It's part of the bigger plan. This is the PR is the body. It's the body of the communications, and then you've got digital marketing, right? And you've got the print media. You've got the mass, and you've got the radio. So all of the communications fall under that. But the PR is the main body, and digital marketing is a form of communication. It's just you want people to either buy something or donate, support an event. So marketing is like, we want you to buy, we want you to support, we want you to donate, click on the book here. So, but it's still part of your communications, but they are together now. They've never been separate. When I saw that happening, I'm like, you know what, guys, you're going to catch on eventually that it's not a separate function. It is somebody, you can't have your PR doing social media as well. Yes, unless it's a small organization and they can manage it, but it's two different functions, but they work together. They have to work together.
Absolutely. And Claire, I get that question often, and it's, should our PR or communications manager be doing social media? And I'm like, no. It's much easier to teach PR and communications about social media than it is to teach a social media person about PR and communications. But there's they parallel with each other, but there are certain things. Like, to me, I'm like, Claire, we should share every good story. And she's like, hang on, is it hard news? Is it soft news? How can we, get this person interested? And I'm like, okay. Whereas with digital marketing and digital media, I would just share everything, because what, as a nonprofit, what we do, we want everybody to know every single thing, whether it's the good, the bad, the ugly. So yeah, that was a very good question, Brian. Thank you for asking that. Tandy has asked, how often should you post and produce content? Is there a magic number one should aim for per week? And just as a note, I see everybody else's questions. We do have 3 minutes left of the session. So if we don't get to your answer, I will send you an email. I'm going to take photos of the questions now, make sure I've got them, and I will email once chatting to Claire afterwards about the answers. So Claire, yes. How often should we post and produce content, do you think?
Well, that's relating to social media, essentially. And I wouldn't say you need to post every day. It's the consistency, I would say 3 times a week on your social media platforms, your chosen social media platforms. And it's just to stay relevant, and because there's so much posting happening on social media. Paid and sponsored for posts do get preference, and Sam would touch more about that. But for me, you need to maybe post 3 times a week on your social media platforms, because there's so much content that you have to share. And sometimes you do have all this information, or you have an event and you've got like 150 pictures. You're not going to share all of that in one post. You take little bits, you spread it out, include it in your marketing or your PR plan, and then share a little bit over time, because with one event you get so much content, or with one great donation, say for instance you get like 100 million rand donated. I know that's
we
really,
wish
that's really big, but from that alone you could create 10 posts just from that donation. The one could be about the money, the one could be about how they're going to affect people, then it's actually going to be the beneficiary, how it impacted their lives, then it could be how there's just so much that can happen over that. So that's why I'm saying 3 times a week is reasonable. It's something that's doable. And the PR person can't do the social media as well, and the graphic design and the photography guys. And I know with nonprofits, there's not always budgets, but you're not going to be very effective if you bombard one person with that responsibility all the time.
Yeah, and so we have 1 more minute left. There is one very, very important question. So if you are all able to stay with us for an extra minute, for those of you that have load shedding, hitting on the hour, thank you so much for joining us. I will send the recording and all the links. For those of you that are new to us, please come back at our future events. Claire will be back. I promise you. I can see by the questions. We need to do another session. But the very, very last question that is very important, and it gets asked a lot. What advice would you give nonprofits in regards to spokespeople? Who should speak on behalf of the nonprofits? So this is typically, should it always be the ED? Or if we are dealing with a press release that relates to social workers' work, should it come from the social worker? Claire, do you have any quick tips about how to navigate that question?
It should be a trained professional, Sam, to be honest with you. It should be somebody with a communications background, or that have had some exposure to how to speak to with the media. We see it all the time in our media with our political scene, where you can see that people haven't been trained, even sometimes our police as well. It should be somebody that has been trained, or even just a little short course that they would have done to know how to present the organization, but it shouldn't really just be anybody that's available. No, it should somebody that is well versed in the vision and the mission of the company, and that deals with this on a regular basis, because your brand is important. You've built this up over years, and you don't want to just throw it away by somebody that's not prepared to deal with the type of questions that's come their way.
And with that, thank you, everybody. We are at 11 o'clock. I don't want to keep you over. We usually finish early, but this is, yeah, Claire, this has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please do follow Claire. I'm going to send you all the links. Claire and I will be hosting monthly chats, very similar to this, for all of you to join. We look forward to hearing from you all, and Claire, from all of us, thank you so much. You look beautiful. I need to get the same shot as you. And to everybody joining, I wish you all such an amazing rest of the week, and enjoy your weekend. Until the next event, chat soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.